green one, so you can, you know this one was late in the war. The earlier ones were orange, but the problem with the orange ones was the Germans were flying over and they were seeing nice big fields of orange, and they thought, oh, fantastic little target, so it's very easy for the Germans to find. Nice big field of orange tractors, which meant we couldn't produce our own food, so that was 1-0 to the Germans there. So we obviously realised this eventually and changed the colour over to green. A bit more camouflage when they were stacked up in the fields. Behind the green Fortson, 2 rows in front of me, is McCormick International. It's a B414. It's got a little diesel engine in there. One of the smaller models of what they were offering at the time. I'm going to move a row so you can see which one I'm talking about. Keep the track here if it does get confusing. So I'm talking about this one here, McCormick International. They produced they sort of got together really to form the company. International was McCormick engineering. The company merged together in about 1902, I think it was, and went on to build tractors for many years, and they're still building them now under International Harvester and Case. It's one of their more early tractors. This one's an International Harvester BWD Super 6, fitted with a nice strong 4-cylinder diesel engine. You'll notice as we go through time that the early tractors were fitted with petrol engines, petrol TBOs, and eventually we start moving over to diesel. As it was realised that you could get a lot more power and torque out of the diesel engine. It was a bit more reliable, didn't have all the electronics, you know, it didn't need the spark plugs and all the sparking technology with that could cause problems on cold days with a little bit of difficulty starting. So more reliability was given with the diesel engine, and eventually you can see here we get bigger and bigger as the tractors go on through time. This one in front of me now is a TEF 20, little Ferguson. You can see it's fitted with very narrow tyres there, and it's a cab of some sort. I'm not sure what protection to the rain it would give you these days, but they weren't offered as standard, the cabs back in the day. It was all open cab, because before tractors you just stood behind a plough or a cultivating equipment behind a couple of heavy horses, and you were in the elements anyway. So being on an open cab wasn't really much different from standing behind a couple of heavy horses. Eventually it was realised that we could get a bit more protection with cabs, and they were offered as optional extras, or other companies would make them and you could bolt them onto your tractor. Another crawler. This one's an Alice Chalmers. It's with drag implements on the back. You can see there's no 3-point linkage on there, so that would have dragged possibly, could have probably got a 4 plough on there, 4 furrow, typically a 3 furrow, something like that on the back of that. Nice little another TF20 in what we call X-Farm condition, so it's pretty much got original paint on there. It hasn't been touched, it's just in good running order. You know, a reliable starter, that's what you're after really. It's got a PTO pulley on the back, so on most of these tractors you'll see pulleys on the side. The Ferguson offered a PTO on the back, which you could bolt different things to. This one has a pulley on the back there, which you can bolt anything to really, something like a saw bench. You could hook it up to the 3-point linkage, and you could use that pulley to power a wood saw. And behind that now I'm following is a Massey Ferguson Mf 35. It's basically after Ferguson was starting to struggle with some of his sales. He teamed up with Massey, and we got the Massey Ferguson Company, which is a company still going today. You can tell it's got red from the Massey and the grey from the Ferguson. That's where the two colours come from. But it's essentially still a Ferguson tractor, just with a few extra modifications. This one is a Fordson E27N with the 6-cylinder Perkins diesel engine in there. And this is one of the reasons why the Model N changed. So it could accommodate the larger diesel engine. You can see here that it pretty much fills up the space under the fuel tank and behind the radiator. Whereas if you look at a petrol E27N, there's a bit of space there. Has the pulley on the side. So that could have driven threshing machines. Again, saw benches, things like that. Behind that is another nice Perkins P6 Fordson E27N. This one from 1950, pulling a nice Whitlock trailer. This one roaded here. And here's our first example of a factory fitted tractor cab from Ford. Now, we've been saying Fordson all along, pretty much up till now. It is the same company. Ford did run the Fordson company, but the problem was, back in the early 1900s, there was already a company called Ford making tractors, but they weren't very good, but they were basically just running off of the Ford name. So, due to copyright infringements, Ford couldn't call his own tractors Ford at the time. They were called Fordson. It wasn't until the 60s that they bought the name out and started to use the name Ford on all of their tractors too.
Here's a drop one.
Nice little Ferguson again coming in. This one big diesel, supposed to be a TEF20. It's much safer than the drawbar type. It has a disengaged safety feature, so the problem with drawbar pulling and ploughing is obviously when a tractor comes across an immovable object such as a large rock, stone under the ground, you can imagine what was happening. The tractor wouldn't know it's actually hit something, the rear wheels would carry on driving, the front of the tractor would do a huge wheelie, and in some cases, unfortunately, the tractor would completely topple over, and you can imagine what that did to the driver. So this was one of the safety features. It has a big spring on there, which disengages the drive when that's all compressed. So when it hits a hard object, it senses that, disengages the drive. Here's something a little different. I was told this was coming in. This is a bit of a beast, this one. He's only acquired this recently, and this is actually a petrol and a diesel tractor. And he told me the other day how this works. So I wouldn't have known this if he hadn't told me. I would have been rather confused because it's petrol round this side, diesel round the other. So I might have told you what it was depending on what side of the engine I was standing. But basically the diesel engine's so huge that back in the day they couldn't get starter motors powerful enough to turn the diesel engine over. So it was fitted with a carburetor, spark plugs on the right hand side of the engine, which you started it on. Because petrol's a lot more flammable, it's a lot easier to catch and get going. Once you've warmed the engine up, you then flip the fuel over to diesel, and it'll cough and splutter, a lot of white smoke will come out the top, and eventually you'll change over. The reason you actually have the changeover is because you've got a lot more power out of the diesel, you get a lot more torque. And with an engine that size as well, running it on petrol all day, you'd just be filling it up all day and it would cost you a fortune. In front of me now is a beautifully turned out little Fergie. This one 1950, it's a TEA. It's a narrow, as well. So when I say it's a narrow, you can see here, standing at the front or the back, that the wheels are a lot closer together as well. So that would have been used for in perhaps orchards or vineyards where you've got tall crops that you need to get in between. Now yes, you could have used a wider tractor between those, but you'd think if you've got to get your tractor in between there, you might lose about 5 or 10 rows over the field. So if you could use a narrow tractor, you're actually increasing your crop output. This one's a case. Again, this is, you can tell this one's an early one. See, it's orange. This one's a nice petrol 4-cylinder. It's a nice ex-farm condition. I'll ask the driver a little bit about it.
It's a 1942 Case DX American tractor. Came over early part of the war and spent its working life in Somerset. It's a lease lent tractor in its original working clothes.
Coming up behind now is a Field Marshal. These are wonderful tractors. One of my personal favourites. We've got 3 of these here. I believe this one's a Series 3. Am I right in saying it's Series 3, this one? Let me just ask him. Series 1, yeah, I was getting confused there. You can tell by the hubs in the wheels. Now, I couldn't remember whether it's flush or sticking out for a Series 1. But yeah, they stick out for a Series 1. Both of these are contractors' Field Marshals. You can tell that because they've got the electric lights on there and fitted with the winch on the back. So the reason for that was if you didn't have a contractor's one, it was just built for your farm. So obviously you wouldn't need to go around the farms for, over the countryside. So you'd have a hard day's work, perhaps you were driving a thrashing machine all day, you finished that job, you may decide to go throughout the night over to the next farm, hence the lights. The big sticky up bits on the back, they are ground anchors. So if you'd imagine you've pulled that cable out the back and you've fitted it onto a huge oak tree, you can imagine that weighs a number of tons. Your handbrake probably won't hold that. You'll pull yourself towards the tree rather than pull the tree towards you. So you lower those anchors down and they just sit on the ground. And as you pull and get the cable tight, the tractor starts to go backwards and you've got the spikes there and they drive into the ground, and the further they go in the ground, the more anchorage and more resistance you've got there. So eventually the tractor will anchor itself into the ground and pull that tree out. Here we are, it's a nice Ford 3000 series. This is about the middle of the range. They did go up to, I think it was a 6000 series, which was a big 4-wheel drive unit. Huge tractor with a cab on as well. And here you can see this one's a little bit later. You can see it's not got the spigots in the hubs on the rear wheels, and it's minus the winch on the back. These are good little tractors, these. Massey Ferguson. This one's a Massey Ferguson MX35X, this one. Fitted with a little 3-cylinder Perkins diesel, very reliable, very economical on diesel as well for its for the power you get out of it. This one's fitted with a 2-furrow power reversible plough on top. These tractors are used today in ploughing competitions and plough matches very regularly because they offer good visibility all round, good traction. They're just the right weight for pulling a couple of furrows, very manoeuvrable, and still, even today, fantastic little tractors. Thank you. And in front of me now, this little blue one with the red wheels. This is a Fordson Dexter. This is basically Fordson's answer to what was just going out the arena now, the Ferguson Mf35 and the Ferguson TA20s. This one's again fitted with a 3-cylinder little diesel engine on there as well. You know, it's got a 3-point linkage on the back. as well, seeing as the patent's now been released and all the tractors are using it. Another nice little narrow Ferguson here. This one, I think it's just a TEA 20. Oh, it's just a 30, so it's a diesel. No, it's a petrol. Oh, this will be one of the later ones. It'll be one of the last Fergusons built before Massey amalgamated with Ferguson. So he's got his narrow gauge on there as well, sitting in between orchards and vineyards. Headlights on the front.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This will be one of the other tractors that was up with the same sort of period from this one to 35.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're getting down.
Pardon?
You're getting down.
We're getting down.
Yeah.
Red's getting a bit red though.
Yeah, we had the river.
And through there, drive this long hose.
I think one more.
Will be
There's a few.
cable,
A few more.
which is turns. And it allows this
Put some more yourself.
implement to be manoeuvred around. You can move it wherever you like. You've got a bit of cable on there, and you can trim some hedge with. And there's nice, got a nice bucket holder on the front as well. And there's hydraulic action as well. So a little forklift. Lovely. Thank you. So if you're following a programme, this isn't a version, this one's a Nuffield. This one's fitted with the CNC diesel, universal force, the pulley on the side, really good tractors, as I said earlier, overly engineered for most, with essentially called there, you can see it's got the sort of shaft poking out from the wheels there, which give it the availability to move the wheels wider and narrower. So if you're doing some road crop work, and obviously your partner can take those, you want extra distance between your roads, you would set your wheels so it falls just in between your potatoes, so you're not driving all over.
Break it even then.
So a nice example of the little Alex Chalmers WF. Not so common these ones, you don't see so many of these. There's lots of bees about and little cubs. This Alex Chalmers from 1950. You can see here we've got taxi rails running all the way through. Obviously the bottom instrument through. We've got a floor bar on the back. Available around the time this was produced.
Alright.
Here's our first bicycle road crop tractor. Miniature, this one. Miniature motor. What year is this one? 65, yeah. So it's bicycle on the front. Very, very popular in America actually. Just see quite familiar with them over here in the this one. So the main objective of this is to reduce your headland. So your headland in a field is basically the turn bit. So the bit where you be able to grow, reduce your chance of turn around. It's right in that inside wheel there, near enough on the six stroke. With one wheel effectively at the front. I know there's two, but it's basically one. Evening out the way. And you're able to turn really quickly and tightly, so you can maximise your output with your growing. And again, on your back there, you can see the shaft sticking out from the wheels. Just loosen the bolts, you lift the crank up a little bit, slide the wheels, and make any width you like.
A chocolate or a bun or...
Yeah.
Biscuit or...
Here we have here, Crystal Extra. This one from 1962. This is the second time. One tractor at a time. Philosophy of one thing will do everybody. So he made his Model T incredibly successful. It was used for all different things, even agriculturally. But eventually other manufacturers were offering multiple models in their lineup, and you could select what model suited you best. When Mr. Ford died, basically his grandson took over and realised that he had to add more to his lineup to offer the farmers all sorts of tractors for the size farming that they were doing. Because obviously the tractors were getting bigger and bigger, but obviously sometimes you don't need such a big tractor. So they introduced the Extra, which was smaller and kept competitive with other tractors.
What, going?
I almost allowing me.
That we were talking about earlier on. This is very early on. This one particularly was built in Detroit by here in 1923. Pretty big size. They should be there. I didn't note it down. That's 1915. So this is very early on with magneto here as well. And so it's hand crank start. There's no battery on there or anything like that. So the idea was to make it a bit more reliable in start as well, as you can see here today.